It's time! Hey everyone, welcome back to an all new episode of All About Sports, the podcast. We're back with the UFC. It's been really long. Ronit seems to he ditched us like a while back, and then we were trying to find replacements for Sensei. And now we have two Senseis. We've got Zaid Khan and Jayawardhan Kharbanda, aka Jay. And Zaid is aka the Prince of India, according to some of us. but just like me, Zaid and Jay are massive UFC fans and combat sports in general. And I said it's perfect to bring them on. They will be our UFC correspondents, so to speak, going forward. We're going to be covering all the big pay-per-views or any sort of things happening around the UFC from now on. So, like I said, this is going to be UFC 276. It's two title fights. It's Izzy versus Cannonier. And then we've got Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. Now, we're going to talk about the main card. We're going to have discussions around that. And then Jay and Zaid will do what all our guests have done in the past, make predictions. And I'm going to put you all on the spot with this one because Ronit, I think, has only got one fight wrong so far. One fight wrong.
No pressure.
How many cards has he predicted?
3 cards so far.
Jesus. Damn. Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. So the pressure's on, but anyway, let's get into it. So before we start, I'm going to share the tail of the tape just for all those who don't know. So there we have it. So Israel Adesanya, the current champion in the middleweight category, is going up against Jared Cannonier, who's currently ranked number 2 in the weight class. Their win-loss record is he's only lost one fight against Jan Blachowicz, and that was when he moved up to heavyweight thinking that he's going to do something and just got absolutely mauled. Blachowicz literally just sat on him and ended the fight. Cannonier has had his fair share of injuries, managed to come back, is a top fighter, no doubt. He made a comeback after so long to fight Uriah Hall, ended up winning that pretty comfortably. But he's 38 years old now. Many people are saying this is his swan song fight in a lot of ways. Izzy on the other end is 32. We all watched his lovely Instagram story. For context,
he's unhinged.
Yeah, there we go. Jay just said he's unhinged. So I'm not going to go into the details of what it had, but it was definitely not anime. It was some hentai stuff going on there. Izzy is 6'4", so he has a massive reach advantage because Cannonier is just 5'11". And that's also clearly visible in the tail of the tape. It's 2.5-inch reach advantage. There's a leg reach advantage as well. The odds speak volumes. Izzy's negative 350 and Cannonier's plus 270. So Zaid, I'm going to come to you first. Yep.
We've said so much about Izzy, right? Like people critique his fighting style, and rightfully so. His average fight time is like 17.5 minutes, which is quite unheard of.
Yep.
He doesn't absorb too many shots, so he may not be the most attractive fighter, but when he's on song, he's unstoppable. So how do you think this fight's going to end up?
Man, it's just a thing with Izzy, right? Like the entire middleweight division is on one level, and then you have Israel Adesanya on this level. He's basically lapped up the division. Jared Cannonier is the only guy which he hasn't faced up until now. And I think he's going to put up a show, man, in this fight as well. I mean, I have immense respect for Cannonier. I think he's a brilliant fighter. He's really strong. He's powerful. But you can nullify Cannonier if you keep him out of range. And Izzy is absolutely elite at keeping his fighters or keeping his opponents at a distance. And I think the key for Cannonier in this fight, if he has any chance of winning this fight, it will be to stay on the outside, be in front of Izzy at all times, make sure that he doesn't overextend, and just pick his moments.
a bit similar to how he won his fight against Anderson Silva back in 2019, where he basically just stayed on the outside, used his outside leg kicks, and flared up Silva's feet. So I think Cannonier will have to be patient. He'll have to fight from range and yeah, just basically pick his moments and ride his luck and hope that Adesanya make some mistake, which I think will not happen, because I think Izzy is here to like put on a proper show. He's lapped up the division. This is the only guy who he hasn't defeated, and yeah, I think Izzy will put on a show.
Jack, coming to you now. Of course, Zed rightly highlighted certain points, but average fight time of Cannonier's 10 minutes. And at the end of the day, he knocked out Brunson in his last fight. Kelvin Gastelum was one other fight which I was impressed by, like Zed pointed out, Silva as well. But Izzy, he's taken down Whittaker twice. Cannonier's lost to Whittaker as well. And I know usually things don't add up like that. But you're talking about a guy who's not lost a fight. The fight he lost was someone who he fought who was double his size, basically.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, as a middleweight, Izzy is undefeated. And I mean, Cannonier has obviously been super impressive in the way he's come back and fought his way to the top. It does feel in some ways like he's the challenger because everyone else has already tried and failed. That's basically it, right? So who else you're going to give it to? I don't know if I necessarily agree that he's going to stay out of the pocket and pick Izzy off and get points and win his way to that. I think if he tries that, then he has absolutely no chance. I think his only way is going to be to fight the way he fights and try to blitz him and use his power. Obviously, that's what Izzy wants, and Izzy's best performances, if you see against Whittaker, Costa, even Brunson, when you go at him and once he gets his timing, he will pick them off, which is what I think is going to happen. I think Cannonier is going to pressure him. He's going to try to fight his way, and that's going to be perfect for Izzy, and he's just going to pick him off. I think he's going to knock Cannonier out, and I'm hoping it's going to be an Izzy clinic because he doesn't fight as often as he did when he was working his way up to becoming a challenger. So you don't see him as often now. It's maybe 1 or 2 fights a year. So I really hope it's one of those prime Izzy performances.
Which actually gets me thinking as well, right? You're talking about a guy who's 6 years older than Izzy. And at the end of the day, he's closing in on 40. How much stamina can he actually have against this guy who is supremely fit? Not only in the ring, clearly, off it as well. Sorry, I have to go there. That story was up on his Instagram for 6 hours. 6 hours. And he has kids who follow him, right? Given
that's what makes Izzy authentic. He does not give a shit how inappropriate the stuff he's posting is.
That's one way to look at it,
No, so obviously, clearly, these odds I think are a bit too low. Honestly, I think I would expect it to be even higher than this.
You think Izzy is a bigger favorite than this?
Yeah, I think Izzy's a massive favorite. I would be honestly, plus 270 for Cannonier is kind to Cannonier. I honestly don't see any chance for the guy, and it's like Zed said, it's not a knock against him, it's just how Izzy is, and just such a well-rounded fighter. Anyway, so clearly we have that Izzy to take this away. But now you made a prediction, Jay. You said knockout.
I will stand by that.
And which round though? Let's get a bit more specific. You don't have to get the round right. You don't have to get the round right. But this is just
if I have to predict, I'll pick round 2, maybe round 3. But my prediction is going to be a round 2 knockout. I am pretty sure he's going to knock him out. But like you said, I mean, even if it goes the 5 rounds, Izzy's never really had gas tank issues in any of his fights. I think other than, I guess the Yoel Romero fight, we don't even need to talk. There's no reason either of them would have gas tank issues in that because no energy was exerted. But against Gastelum, he really came good in the 5th round. I think that's when he kind of put down the marker and made that jump for most people to say Izzy is the next guy to be the champ of this division. So I don't think he's going to have any problems. My prediction is 2nd round TKO.
Zed, let's go.
Izzy by unanimous decision.
Okay, so it's clearly Izzy, but one is going with a decision, one's going with a second round knockout. I hope for the sake of our viewers, it is that second round knockout, because there's nothing better in combat sport than a knockout, no doubt,
True.
or a standing chokehold, which we've barely.
Unlikely.
Yes. Anyway, we'll move on to the co-main.
Mate.
We've got Alexander the Great, Volkanovski, defending his title once again. And this, according to me, will be the fight of the night.
Yeah.
Max is a monster. The guy has a chin like you've never seen. Once upon a time, I used to. Like when you look at him, he's the most deceiving person you see, right? He's this skinny guy. And before we get into all of that, let's go through the tail of the tape. So Volkanovski, very similar to Izzy, just has lost one fight, 24-1. And Max doesn't have a bad record either, 23-6 in a division where he's fought the likes of Conor, the likes of. Did he fight Khabib?
No, that
No,
never
he didn't
happened.
fight Khabib. Yeah, he didn't fight Khabib. But like Max has
Fought
gone
Poirier
up.
as well. Holloway
Yeah,
has
he-
fought
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fought everyone.
Yeah,
pretty
to
much
be
every-
fair to Max, his record is not less impressive because he was so young when he started off
Yeah.
in the. I mean, he's still so young. He's 30 now. He's had like a legendary career already.
Unbelievable,
He's
man.
turning 30 now, so
And I love
Yeah.
it. And he's got the best. I still stand by the fact, apart from Notorious, obviously, he's got the best nickname, man. Blessed. He truly, when he fights, it seems like he's blessed. The number of significant strikes in that game against Yair Rodriguez, in that fight, rather, not game, in the fight against Yair, what, 251 strikes, out of which 230 were significant strikes.
he puts up some crazy numbers. He did that against Brian Ortega as well. That was
Yeah.
insane. I did not expect that kind of mismatch.
But what a fight, though. Like, even Brian Ortega, man, credit where it's due. He put on a I mean, he got outclassed against Volk, but he put on a show then as well. But yeah, I think the major talking point here is obviously something that we can't forget is Max and Volkanovski fought a couple years back. Volkanovski came out on top.
Yeah.
After that, Volkanovski's gone on. He's beaten Ortega, like we mentioned, Korean Zombie most recently. Max, on the other hand, also after losing to Volkanovski, went on to beat Calvin Kattar, pretty much dominated him. And then Yair was a great fight as well. What I want to come to you, Jay, I'm coming to you first, and then I'll go to Zed. The reach over here. I mean, he's a much
Yeah.
taller fighter, but when you look at the reach, it's very intriguing that Volkanovski has a reach advantage. But then it comes to the leg reach. But we don't see Max swing with his feet at all because he closes down the distance.
Yeah.
So take it away, Jay. What's your construct of this fight?
So I mean, we've seen it before. I guess it's debatable, but I did think Max won the first fight. This is the third fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Between the two, yeah. I'm rooting for Max to pull this off, but I don't know why. I just feel like it's gonna be like a city kickboxing kind of day. Volkanovski's gonna win, Izzy's gonna win, and Eugene Behrman and all of them are just gonna be celebrating the whole night. It just feels like that. I'm still rooting for Max, but I don't know. I think this time Volk is gonna put it to bed. And as much as I love Max, I do like Volkanovski as well. He's a really likable guy. His fights are fun. He's obviously really, really good. And it does seem like in the featherweight division, the only guy that can compete with Volkanovski is Max Holloway. And that's why we're seeing this fight again. Because he's the only one who's left at least some kind of doubt. I don't think there is any other competition for him in the division. And maybe he's going to move up or down. Who knows what's next for him after this. But I'm going to predict Volkanovski by decision.
Zed, what about you?
Yeah, I think a very important component of their first two fights were the leg kicks which Volkanovski landed on Holloway. He landed 13 in the first fight and 22 in the second fight. So that's how he closed the distance and just popped away jabs and strikes. And when he couldn't deal with Holloway's combinations, he resorted to grappling. But as we can see over here, Holloway has a significant leg reach. And I think one of the main themes of this matchup and one of the main things which will decide the winner of this matchup is which man makes the most adjustments compared to the first two fights. And I think if Holloway stands a chance to win, he has to use his legs more. I mean, we all know he's probably one of the best boxers in the UFC. On the feet, I think he has a significant advantage over Volkanovski anyway. But the only mitigating factors which he has to take care of are Volkanovski's leg kicks and his grappling. And I think another very important factor in this fight will be Max's concentration and focus. Because I think in the second fight, after he won the first two rounds, I think Max simply went on autopilot. And you cannot do that against a guy like Volkanovski, who is so strong mentally. If you give him this much of an opening, he's going to turn the tide in his favor. And that's exactly what he did. And it's also important to note that this time Holloway is fighting a Volkanovski who's not only defending his belt, but he's also stepping into inside the octagon to cement his legacy as an all-time great in the featherweight division. Because if he beats Holloway for the third time, I think he will cement his status as the best featherweight of all time, in my opinion, because of the nature of his victories as well. We spoke about Brian Ortega. To get out of that guillotine choke against Ortega, you need to channel strength from another dimension, in my opinion. And just the nature of his victory against Korean Zombie, like he wasn't even there. Like Herb Dean literally had to step in and say, okay, I finally, like, I feel bad for you. I'm going to stop this fight now. Yeah, I think Max has to be focused because he's coming up against a guy who's fighting for legacy now, not only for defending his belt.
Yeah, just on that note, that the way he got out of that guillotine is unbelievable. I mean, that fight was gone. How did he manage to, I don't know, catch his breath and make that happen? That was unbelievable. I think that's like my Volkanovski highlight.
Yeah.
That's probably why I think he's so likable. I mean, it's hard not to root for him as well.
Yeah, I'll be very honest. I wasn't the biggest fan of Volkanovski, but that's got a lot to do with the fact that he's Australian. But that's but no, man, like honestly, you can't help but have respect for what an amazing fighter he is. And Zaid, you're right, he's making a great shout for eventually breaking into one of the greatest fighters pound for pound
100%.
as well. And nothing better than this. I like what you brought up about grappling, and I just wanted to bring Jay into this before we move on to the next fights. Jay, his takedowns per 15 minutes, I'm talking about Volkanovski, is 1.95 takedowns per 15 minutes. But Max has an 84% takedown defense as well. Do you think that, like, if Volkanovski tries to resort to that he might get caught as well? Do you see there being a possibility of that?
I think so. I don't think Volkanovski can look at the fight and say, especially if it's a 5-round fight, I don't think he can look at it and say, I'm going to take this guy down and dominate him, because Max is really slick. He does have really good takedown defense. I mean, there's a reason no one wants to box with him, is because he's definitely better at boxing than anyone else in that division. So it's obvious to try to take him down, and he's very well prepared for that. The same way Izzy is for the most part. But for what it's worth, I don't think Volkanovski does too badly on the feet against Max as well. I mean, he uses leg kicks very efficiently. Who knows how Max is going to respond to that? But as far as the boxing is concerned, Max has the edge, but I don't think he dominated Volk the same way he's dominated the other guys in the division. So I still think for the most part, we're going to see a stand-up fight. Maybe going into the latter rounds, depending on whether or not Volkanovski can get 1 or 2 rounds under his belt, I think that's when we'll start to see him try to pressure the takedown.
Okay, so again, Jay's already given his prediction. Decision, Volk, and still. What about you, Zaid?
Split decision Volk. Answer.
Split decision Volk. Wow. Yeah, 5 rounds split decision.
It's always so crazy to predict a split decision though, right? Because what you're predicting is 2 judges who see the fight differently.
And that too in a 5-round. Like, I understand a 3-round fight, but in a 5-round championship fight, bold decision by Zaid right there. But guys, just I'm gonna say it. I know Volk's the favorite, and I know, honestly, my heart is rooting for Max in this case. But I think Volk has it as well. So I'm with you on that. But if I'm a betting man, I'm going for Max in this case. Just if I were a betting man. Anyway, so those are our two main title fights, the big ones, the blockbuster fights, the reason why it's a PPV event. Now we'll move into the other fights of the main card. So we've got Sean Strickland going up against Alex Pereira in the middleweight category. Strickland, he's been there, done that again, but still only 31. Very similar to Max. No way the same in terms of caliber. With no disrespect to Strickland, to be fair, he's 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Has not lost since 2018. Yes, he didn't fight between 2018 and 2020. 2019, he just didn't fight. But yeah, he's beaten Jack Hermansson most recently, Uriah Hall before that, Brendan Allen, I think Marshman and Talib I think those were the 5 fights. And then Alex Pereira, just 2-0 in the UFC, 5-1 in his professional MMA career, age 34 though. So again, Pereira is a slight favorite. You can almost call these odds equal in a lot of ways. But slight favorite for Pereira. These are the UFC odds, mind you. All these odds that are on the tail of the tape are from there. So if you go on betting sites, you might find something else altogether. But Pereira has a 3-inch reach advantage, massive leg reach advantage as well. And I mean, if you saw that last fight against Bruno Silva, you're in for a treat according to me. So Zaid, take it away.
Man, this Alex Pereira hype train is just fueled by Dana White. He knows Izzy is lapping up the division. He knows about the history between Izzy and Pereira, and he's just hoping and praying that this baptism by fire is something that Pereira comes through and he can just like pose as a legitimate threat to Izzy's throne. But yeah, I mean, this dude is in his 3rd fight in the UFC and he's up against the number 4 guy in the division. That just tells you about his natural ability as well. It's not all hype, in my opinion. As you said, in the Bruno Silva fight, he absolutely pieced that guy up. And the one quality of Pereira which stands out for me is how calm and composed he is while setting up traps, and how technical and precise he is with the punches which he lands. And I think his height and reach advantage will be very significant against Strickland, because Strickland is an elite striker. He's brilliant with his striking. He is very good at using his jab to maintain a distance and dictate the pace of the fight. He has excellent takedown defense. He defended all 8 of Jack Hermansson's takedown attempts in their last fight. And I think if he tries to keep Pereira at a distance, Pereira should look to use his long limbs and his kickboxing background to inflict damage on him. He's very, very much capable of landing a flying knee or something outrageous like that and knock Strickland out. But yeah, going by the style which both of these fighters adopt, I think it'll be a fascinating, bloody striking contest on the feet, in my opinion.
So before I get Jay into this, just a highlight, like you said, Zaid, Pereira's a black belt in kickboxing, but Strickland is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an intriguing matchup. Jay, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like Zaid said, it's crazy that in his 3rd fight, he's already fighting the number 4 guy. But I think it's very obvious Dana wants to eventually see. I'm sure what Dana really wants is for Pereira to run through the division, eventually get that title shot. Then they're going to talk about how he's the guy that knocked Izzy out. And then, hopefully we'll see Izzy knock him out and retain the title. I'm sure that's what Dana really wants. And to some degree, I'd love to see that also. That is probably the best outcome out of this. It's crazy. I don't know what happens if Strickland wins, because this is really a difficult fight for Alex Pereira. I mean, if he wins, you have to say he's still at least 1 or 2 fights away from challenging for the title. So who does he fight then? Is he going to have to fight Robert Whittaker or Cannonier? I mean, all of this is assuming Izzy retains the title, of course. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's hard for Pereira to actually come out of this with more hype than he's already got. And I think for Strickland, it's just a chance to put the marker down and say that he is also here to challenge for a title. He's been talking about Izzy recently in the media, just trying to create something there. So yeah, awesome fight. I think I'm gonna go with Alex Pereira just because that's the outcome I ideally want to see. But I think this is gonna be an awesome fight also.
Okay, so Jay, be a bit more specific now. Pereira in how
A
many
bit more
rounds?
specific. I'm gonna say I don't think this fight will go the distance. I'm gonna say Pereira by knockout.
Pereira by knockout. Let's not forget this is going to be a 3-round fight. So I'm not going to
Round
be
3.
so, yeah, I'm not going to be so harsh on you, Jay. It's fine. In a 3-round fight, I'm not going to ask you for the round.
Between you and me, as long as I get just the results right, even if the rounds are wrong, I am happy with
No, but I think I'm on the Pereira hype train as well. Dana White privilege is working. Zaid,
it.
what's your pick?
I'm going for a Sean Strickland win, TKO.
Oof.
Yeah, I like this. I like the fact that it's a mixed opinion in this case, because honestly, I think people are forgetting how good Strickland is. No one's, because the middleweight category is something that people haven't been looking at since it's only been Izzy and Rob for the longest time. Anyway, this one, it has also Zaid's favorite fighter, Sean O'Malley.
He's not my favorite. It's just that you hate him.
Exactly. I was being sarcastic this time. But it's Pedro Munhoz, the young Punisher. Love his nickname. Going up against Sugar Sean. Sean O'Malley lost one fight because he broke his leg. And then he was crying so much about it, and said was absolutely triggered by that, saying, why is he going on? He clearly lacks the conditioning to fight. That's why he broke his foot. but yeah, he's just 27, 15-1. He's lit up the UFC in the bantamweight division. Going up against someone who I think is severely underrated. Yes, his win-loss is something that you might look at and not be too impressed by, but that's, again, it's a tough division. Sean O'Malley has a massive reach advantage of 7.5 inches, and even a leg reach advantage. Clearly the favorite as well at -240. Jay, first you, and then we'll close up with Zaid.
I just want to say I get why people don't like Sean O'Malley, but I love the guy. And I mean, he hasn't fought the hardest of competition, but he's been pretty transparent about why he does that, right? I mean, he said before, if I'm making the same amount of money, why would I take the extremely tough fights? He's gonna work his way up to it. But for what it's worth, I think Sean O'Malley is awesome. Watching his fights is always fun. He obviously had that blip against Cheeto, was it? Yeah. So he had that blip against Cheeto, but other than that, his UFC stint has been awesome. In his last couple of fights, he's looked really, really good coming back. So I think it's fair enough that he's a favorite, and this is probably do or die for him. If he can't get past Pedro Munhoz, then all the naysayers are going to be like, yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about. When you fight a top 10 guy, this is what happens. So I really hope he makes it through. I am predicting another TKO victory for Sean O'Malley.
Zaid, take it away.
I mean, I get what Jay is saying, and it's part of his brand and this and that. But I remember me and Mazhar having a conversation about Sean O'Malley, and I was actually rooting for O'Malley. I said, even though people say he hasn't fought anyone, like the improvement is clearly visible. He's insanely fast with his striking. Obviously, he uses his reach very, very well. He's brilliant. Like striking, moving backwards, etc. We haven't seen much of his ground game, and I think that might be one chink in the armor which Munoz would look to exploit in this match, because Munoz has nasty calf kicks and a very, very good ground game. I don't think he stands a chance against O'Malley in a striking contest on the feet, so he would look to take O'Malley to the ground as much as he can. But yeah, like Jay said, if O'Malley can't get past Munoz, then yeah, he validates a lot of the naysayers' opinions about him. But more importantly, it's also the manner in which he defeats Pedro Munhoz. If he just struggles to a victory, I think there'll still be question marks over his overall ability. I think if he actually wants to properly stamp his authority as the next big thing in the bantamweight division, he has to like just swap aside Munoz, like either a TKO or either an impressive submission or something of that sort. But yeah, I think O'Malley might
I
have
think an impressive decision also would work. If he can just win
if he
all of
can
his
just
rounds
completely
and piece him
dominate
up
the
on
guy.
the feet,
Yeah,
then yeah.
yeah. Some like the Chris Moutinho thing. I mean, that wasn't a
Yeah,
decision,
I
but
mean,
like similar.
honestly, that should have been called off way
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
Chris Moutinho was just an insane guy. But yeah.
All right. So there you have it, folks. That was Zaid and Jay's takes on UFC 276. Watch it. Don't miss it. It's going to be a fun pay-per-view, as most of the UFC pay-per-views are. So stay tuned for that. And we'll catch you soon again with an all-new episode, all sports, and also the UFC with Jay and Zaid soon. So till then, take care, stay safe, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
If you like this episode, make sure to leave a like and share it with anyone else who might be interested. You can also subscribe on any social media platform that you prefer, and all our links are in the bio. We also have a website with all our episodes as well as blogs and a whole lot of other sports content, so make sure to check that out as well.